Alright, we're back. If you wasn't here for the last one, we took 6th. We are not having good luck with tests, but not too many people are running Murlocs when we have her, so I guess we're going to have to stop running Murlocs. If we get her again, we won't do that. But, what I was saying before was the idea of... What was I saying? 'Cause I know this is a problem with America, part 3. Oh, the problem, ultimately. See, my dad in particularly was a good guy. Really didn't do anything wrong. He was arguably the best person in our family. And, I mean, really not arguably. Like, my entire dad's side of the family outside of him were a bunch of, well, either thief, liars, mentally messed up, or, crooks. I don't come from good stock, so to speak. My dad was good. He was the only one out of the entire bunch that didn't have something wrong with him or wouldn't like slit your throat for $5, you know? And I was proud of him. Very proud of him. But I argued with him all the time because I'm one of these people who's like I don't trust. I grew up in the 90s. Our number one thing was, it's you got to understand that you can't trust anything. You can't trust anybody when it's all said and done with.
Don't tell the
Because
others. I'm rooting
anybody
for you.
and everybody's out for themselves. My dad was not. And it was something that I didn't ever get to tell him, so I have regrets for that. And unfortunately, I feel I have a hand in this murder. So I'm a little messed up in the head from that. I deal with, I am undiagnosed by officially,
Nice
but
work
by
out
other
there.
people who
Keep
have
up the
gotten to
pressure.
know me over the years. They have declared that I have PTSD and everything, so from this because I just cannot let go what happened. And I live with that all the time. And one of the biggest problems I've had has been with the police department that got away with murdering him in cold blood. And I know there's some people automatically, because that's normally the first reaction I get is, oh, okay, the police department murdered him in cold blood. Right. He must have been doing something wrong. Nope. Him and his wife got into an argument. He was in his house. She was outside the house. And she was finding another place to go. And he literally got called out to the front porch. They let him lift his shirt, roll
Welcome
around
back.
for
How's
them
it
to make
going
sure
out
he had no
there?
weapons on him. And then they went to rush him. And when they went to go rush him,
Better
he went to go
hide
run
where
back into the
truth while
house.
you can.
When he went to go run back into the house, one of them opened fire. When the first one opened fire, they all opened fire. So he got hit a few times. And from what I heard in the report, because now there's some people trying to claim otherwise all of a sudden, was that there wasn't a single fatal shot. They were all grazing blows. And
I
that if
think
he
you
had
could
just been
win
able to get
this thing.
something on him and some treatment, basic treatment, he could have made it. But instead, he sat there in a house and he slowly bled to death. And it was bad because it was hours long. We heard the gunshots at the other end of the road. And instead of being able to get help in there, we were forced to stay in a
Tough
car.
battle.
As a matter of fact,
Pick
I was
yourself
threatened
back up
that if
and
I didn't
turn it
get
around.
into said vehicle, I was going to jail. I'm like, really? Well, yeah, really. I'm like, nice. Thank you, police department. But that was the road I was in. And I knew
You
in my
gotta
heart
hang in there.
why,
Up a goal.
but I was trying to hang on to the hope that he would make it, even though I knew for a fact he would not. I knew it deep down inside that they were up to no good. And hours go by. After 2 or 3 hours, they send us to a hotel. And I'm like, as soon as we get told we're going to a hotel so that
I
mom can
think
get
you could
ready,
win
have a
this
place
thing.
that she can get ready for work or sleep or something so they don't have to just stay in the car. I came to that conclusion right then. It's like, oh, so it's already over. Now they need us to leave the street so that they can clean up their mess and not have to worry about us seeing any of this evidence getting removed. And that's what happened. Literally 10 minutes after we got into the hotel room,
Your
my
minions
mom's
really
getting called
pulled their
out,
weight.
and she's being told that he passed away. It was an accident, blah blah blah, everything like that. And she's like, "You serious?" It's like, my son's been telling me this entire time that y'all were gonna end up killing him, and I kept telling him that you wasn't. I was like, "Well, that's not fair. We wasn't trying to kill him." Like, right, right. Um, that's a long story. I'll probably make a video about that one alone. I'll go more into details about it then. But for right now, because I want there to be awareness that there is dirty cops out there. 100% there's dirty cops out there. But I think the biggest problem we're having in America right now is that it's being turned into cops are all racist and they just want to shoot every African American they come across. That's not the case. They want to shoot anybody they can get their guns into without getting in trouble. They have way too much power and they have no authority to really keep them in line. Even the SBI, which I learned through our endeavors, was the police to the police. It was their job to investigate every time there's like a shooting or something to make sure there was no foul play involved and that they were within their jurisdiction or what they were supposed to do. But they too are in on it, so that does no good whatsoever if the police to the police are willing to protect the bad guys, right? So with that, there's no justice, like, at the end of the day. And so I'm one of the ones who's completely against the idea of police officers. Don't get me wrong, I don't like them. I would love to be in a world where I don't have to deal with them, but the only way to get in a world without them is to have world peace. But then I'm hearing on our presidential elections and everything like that people are like, we should defund the police stations. It's like, okay, so you want to completely break us into anarchy. Completely make it so that any person who's just getting frisky can go on a killing spree. Like, do you remember the Wild West? Like, that's basically what you're looking at. I mean, you only had like a sheriff or two to keep the place safe. Now we're dealing in a generation of people where most people are too afraid to fight, to stand up and protect their own. We got gun laws, and there's more people out here who's trying to say, well, we don't want guns because I want to be able to feel safe, but I don't want to have to carry a gun. Okay. Well, what are you going to do if somebody tries to break into the house? Well, I'm going to stand there and I'm going to call the cops. What are the cops going to do? They're going to wait till after you're dead to show up. Because nobody wants to risk their lives, especially not the cops. Like, their whole thing is, well, I mean, they could have had a weapon. Yeah, they could have had a weapon, but did you know if they had a weapon? Well, no, but why should we have to risk our lives? I mean, you get paid to risk your lives. For one. I mean, if you really want to get into nitty-gritty, you signed up for that. That's like saying that a firefighter doesn't want to go run into a burning building because it's on fire. What was you thinking this job was going to be? Like, at this point, oh, I don't want to have to deal with water. How was you going to put the fire out? Was you going to throw sand on the house? Like, seriously, you become a cop. For what purpose? Did you think you was just going to dress up in a uniform and decorate calendars? You're not that pretty. You eat donuts, drink coffee, and you threaten people on a regular basis. And you abuse your power because you know nobody can touch you because if they touch you, there's an entire army of police officers behind you. You're a glorified gang. But what happens whenever they defund the police? They're not going to leave it in complete anarchy. There's only so many people, innocent people, who's going to be able to die, especially rich people, who's going to be able to get robbed and die before they're going to just go to martial law. Or they're just going to call in the military and let them do the policing. And if you think there's enough people getting shot now in the street for nothing, wait till the military gets involved because half the police department is military. They're already gun happy. My answer to this entire situation, if people would just think more, it's very simple. If you was to look at, for instance, a truck driver, a professional truck driver, one that drives the big rigs, the 18-wheelers, they are held at a higher accountability. They have to get a license to be held at a higher accountability. So an accident that you get into as a basic driver that costs you a point on your license, will cost a truck driver
Hey,
two.
a triple. Here's your reward.
Just automatically, because they're better drivers. They are professional drivers. They are held at that standard at all times. And that's what police should be, in my eyes. Like, I'm not saying defund them. I'm saying that if a cop shows up, there needs to be real police deciding whether or not what they did was wrong. Not like somebody that's from a state that they've been able to be in communication with so that they can bribe them and sucker up to them and get away with whatever they've done. Like it is now. I'm trying to get through this Murloc game and I'm not paying enough attention. All three of those are getting caught. We're going to poison up over here. The golden Murloc isn't going to stay. But so the idea is you pull your gun, and they should all have to wear cameras. I don't like the idea of taking the cameras off of them because of the people who are like, okay, you got caught with some weed. It's not enough to break the law, but I mean, you have weed on you in general. I'm willing to let the slide, go. There's a few cops that are like that. I'm willing to let it go, whatever. You were going a few miles over speed limit, but honestly, I'm only getting you for your tail light. And this is just a warning. Well, that's going to get cut out if they have to put cameras on everybody. But at that point, I mean, what can you do? Like, you got to put the cameras on them to make sure that they're upholding the law and that you're not having to deal with somebody who's like, oh, I know I caught you red-handed, threatening somebody and holding them at gunpoint. Now I've gotten you away from them. If you want to get out of this, sexual favors. What? No, that's not how this should be working. So how do you fix that? Cameras. So here's where the real problem comes into now. And what I'm trying to say from the very beginning of this whole rant is what needs to be done to fix this problem. And that is that you need to make it... Hang on a second. We need to get through our turn here. Let's put poison on this one. Never tripled one of these before, so...
I like where you're going with this.
I don't understand honestly why we would triple this anyways, but I just did it because I could. He's more damage. I'm not keeping him. We're fighting Murlocs. Should have thought more about how I was making my turns, but I kind of want to sell that to buy that. There's more bodies on the floor. But, so, here's where the problem is, like I was saying. What we need to fix is how many laws there are. Things need to be changed. There's quite a few laws that are in place right now that are really stupid. I watch a lot of YouTube videos where like, well, this is a victimless crime. Seriously, why do we gotta keep upholding to this? I'm actually in agreement with this. If there is a law in place that is telling you that you can't do something, that it does not hurt anybody, I think it's about time we got rid of that. And I think some of the standards that are in place need to be changed too. Like, and this is a conversation that's kind of touchy and like difficult to go around with because like my girlfriend is one of the ones who is really she wants to actually become a police officer herself, but she's about special victims units and everything like that. She really doesn't like the idea of somebody being forced into some kind of situation that they don't like. And see, I don't really know how to put this without it being something that could become a difficult conversation, but basically the idea of let's do this first. Hang on, let's get through this real quick. Finish our talk.
Exactly what you were looking for.
So we want the trip. We can't get anything good for some reason. We'll take this. Buy this one. Buff up all of our Murlocs.
Hey, a triple.
Another trip.
Here's your reward.
What did we fight last? He was Murlocs, right? Yeah, he was Murlocs. We'll take this.
I have witnessed the true end time.
Is not going in yet. Dragons. He's gonna be able to snipe. Let's just go ahead. But okay, where was that? Okay, so laxing some of these laws so we can cut back. And like I said, it's a conversation that me and my girlfriend had, and we kind of came around to be about the same on this situation. Finally, we found a middle ground. And the idea is like, okay, I am not one for pedophilia. I'm not one that says, hey, a 7-year-old, yummy. That's kind of weird to me. Like, this is a kid. It doesn't know any better. It doesn't know what is going on. And even so, like, my worst problem with this situation is, like, this kid doesn't know how to maintain itself, take care of itself. How do you even find this attractive? Like, at all. It's a child taking advantage of. So I'm not approving of any kind of child activities. So don't even try to twist it into that. But if you got a 13-year-old girl out here who is hiding in every way possible her age, trying to make herself look as mature as she can, and chasing after a guy that's older than her, whether it's a teacher or whether it's a
I like where
neighbor
you're
or
going with
whatever,
this. Better hire a recruit while you can.
it is her going out of her way to make herself appealing to somebody. And he gives in. He goes for it. And he does whatever he's going to do with this girl. And I'm using it this way for right now, but I'll explain it in another way and see how you feel about it then. But he decides he's going to go for it. Let's say she's 13 or 14, and he's probably like 22, 23. Well, to him, she looks like she could be easily 18, 17, 16, somewhere in there. A mature looking girl. Doesn't really bother knowing how old she really is, but she's constantly teasing and playing and wanting it, and he's constantly having to tell her no. He gives in one day, goes for it. Now he's a child molester at the end of the day, and he is completely charged with this 100%, and his entire life is ruined. He finds out the butt, and I don't think that that's right at the end of the day, actually. I think that if she was so willing that she had those urges, that she had the means to it, parents wasn't stopping it. So at this point, as far as I'm concerned, I think that he should be allowed to do that. I'm not approving of the idea of grooming. Don't get me wrong. Like if you see the guy is sitting up over here trying to grab this 13-year-old and is trying to talk her into it, promising her gifts and stuff like this, trying to act super nice to her to try to make her feel this way, that's a different story. But if it's literally she's doing it, she's doing the pushing, she's doing the instigating, I don't see a problem at this point. It's like she chose to. It's not easy for a guy to control his hormones as it is. Does that mean that, oh, okay, well, a girl that's walking around half naked in the park would be right? No, that's the whole point of this entire conversation here is that no, there are situations that make it situational. But, and then what I mean by the roles reversed is I see these results of teachers who have come out a lot in the last year or two, where there's been several female teachers who have been
You're
caught
good at this.
messing around with teenage boys. And now their entire lives are completely ruined. But as a teenage boy, I think I can vouch for the fact that, having been a teenage boy, let me rephrase that because I'm not one now. I can vouch for the fact that a teenage boy pretty much wants that. You can say, oh, he doesn't know
Go
any
ahead
better.
and hire
No,
one of these
we pretty much do.
recruits.
As a matter of fact,
You down a
teenage boys tend to
million
get in
and up
trouble
a gold.
more for messing with people that they shouldn't be and taking it upon themselves to force a girl than anybody else does. And that's where this problem is that, okay, so if he was messing with her in the first place and teasing and taunting and convincing her that that's really what he wanted, why is it that because she's an older woman, he's getting punished? She's getting punished for it now, but he's gonna go on and brag about this for years. Like he's the man now, but she is a terrible person because she did that. That doesn't make sense to me at all. I don't. I think that that is a double standard. I think it's not fair, honestly. So I think that in circumstances, I think that it needs to be a lax on this. Do I think a 4-year-old needs to have the right to be able to decide? No. I think that is way beyond too young to be trying to make a decision like that. But I do believe that if you're in that ages where hormones are actually starting to act up and you are having desires and they want to go for it, why not? Because you're gonna find somebody anyways to do it, and the next person might not be as nice as the person that you were crushing on in the first place. I say, why make it a situation where they can become dangerous, just like the situation with prostitution right now, where they are literally only in as much danger as they are when it comes to prostitution rings and everything, because of the fact it's illegal. Because of the fact they can't do it safely in any way because they have to try to hide to do it. And so that's one law that I think that if they was to bring it down, it wouldn't be so bad because how many 16-year-olds have put guys behind bars now?
Makes you strong.
And these female teachers that have lost their entire careers because of this, whenever I honestly do not feel like they should have. What did we just fight? We fought mechs, right? There's not enough Murlocs to try to rely on this one. But we do want that.
I didn't like that one either. Here's a goal
I only
for the
bought this
trouble.
one so I could sell it. Bought this one. That would put me at 2. There's no way I can buy both of those unless I sell this one. That guy, dude. Could sell him. Sell this one. And then, like I said, I think prostitution and marijuana should be legalized. I think that would drop us out too. And the idea behind this, under the whole premise behind making this stuff legal, is literally a matter of cut back on how many laws there are. So if there's not so many laws, then we can go with the idea of putting, for one thing, less reasons for a cop to have to interact. As long as there's less laws, there's less reasons for them to have to be able to come in there and impose themselves into somebody else's life, and at the same time, make it to where less people are afraid to have to be around them all the time, because it causes stress to have to be around them all the time, because you're afraid of how much trouble you're going to get into, because half the time you don't even know what's illegal anymore. You have to be afraid that you're doing something illegal and not even know it. Go ahead and sell this. Bucks. I want that. I do want that. What did he have? He had dragons. I'm not saving this because we're probably not going to make it next round anyways.
The fate of the world hangs in the balance.
Yeah, that's a 2. Buy him. Should have bought him, but whatever. In case they have Divine Shield. Like I'm sure they do. I want to triple any of these, but I doubt I get to. Freeze. I'm gonna buy that and I'm gonna shuffle. If I survive, of course. I think we're actually about to get eliminated though. But that would also make it to where it is less painful for cameras. If you put cameras in there, then you don't have to deal with the fact that they have to worry about getting in trouble for not calling every little crime that's being committed. Cut back on that. Allow gambling to be legal. Uh, Actually, no, probably not gambling. That's how you get people broke. But cutting back on taxes wouldn't be bad either, but then again, like, how are we ever gonna do that? We can't. We're limited. I mean, we didn't do bad though. We took third. We like got first with this guy, but third's not bad. It's kind of embarrassing to lose to Murloc whenever we were Murlocs, but I didn't level up enough fast enough. But this discussion's gonna have to continue on. I can't. We're losing so fast too. Like I'm not even having time to really get into these conversations with you guys. But I guess we'll continue this in the next one. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.